start saying about this agroecology because that's the focus of this topic. But as my brother has already insisted that I must also include some detail about the rice conservation and the importance of indigenous rice varieties, unique varieties of rice that we have been conserving over the past 28 years. So I'm going to do that. So I'm combined these the two concepts of this agroecology and which leads to, results in ultimately the seed sovereignty of the farmers, because sovereignty, the farmer's sovereignty over his own land and the seeds and the means and materials of production is the primary goal, that sovereignty over this, without depending on the government or corporate sector or any other plans. It has to be the farmer's own. So if the next slide, it's the definition of agroecology. We are all aware of this. When we say agroecology, the world is flooded with different kinds of terms like organic farming, zero budget natural farming, biodiverse farming, and all of these kind of things. The essential thing is that the agroecology definitionally evolved in the 1980s as the application of ecology, the science of ecology in agricultural systems. But later it evolved to include many other meanings. And so agroecology, from the science of ecology, it spilled over to include a philosophy, a philosophy of independence and the farmer's sovereignty. And then it became a movement. So a movement which is upheld by different movements in different continents, including the La Via Campesina. We're all familiar with that. And the Cuban model of agroecology became, after the Mali conference, the Nieleni conference statement of agroecology has been the determinant of these ones. So without going into the detail of those, this philosophy and the principles, the main principle is that we have to be zero external input agriculture. It has to be, of course, zero agrochemicals, but as long as it's depending on the seed supply from outside, for example, from external agencies, whether it's government or research institutions or corporates, the farm is not agroecology farm. It's not free farm. So, of course, the herbicides and fertilizers, pesticides, not only that, but also it has to be bereft of any kind of external complex machinery, which cannot be maintained or at least repaired by the farm community, or at least the local community. And it has to be zero fossil fuel community. In a sense, it has to be zero external input. Of course, commonsensically, it cannot be 100% zero external input, because we have to get this sunlight and the rainwater, which are definitely external to the farm ecosystem. But apart from these two natural inputs from outside the farm, every single input has to be zero. Until that is achieved, a farm is not agroecological. This is exactly what we have been achieving, and we have achieved in our Vasudha farm, which I'm going to share with you the methods and of course, including by employment of biodiversity to the fullest extent of the concept. Next one, please. So the first arsenal, next one, is the crop species, which is the hardware, I call the crop species and its varieties, all the species and genetic diversity of all crops. The history of this, the crops is, all the crops that we eat today, all the crops that we cultivate all over the world came to being, were created by our ancestral humans in the Neolithic period, about 10,000 years ago, 10 to 12,000 years ago. Rice, for example, evolved about 10,000 years ago in China and India, and all the other crops, whether it's potato, tomato, wheat, mango, pearl millet, barley, anything that we eat all over the world were invented, were created from ancestral wild species, and they created in the sense of creating a new species. Those species never existed in the world, just like dog. Dog is a new species, Canis familiaris. It was domesticated from the wild ancestor, the Eurasian wolf, which was Canis lupus. But Canis domesticus is a completely new species which was created 17,000 years ago by way of what Darwin called artificial selection. So similarly, not only this dog, but all the crops, all the domesticated crops that we cultivate today were created. This is a scientific fact which mainstream agriculturists actually hide from the fact that farmers are capable of creating all those species. They had created this without any knowledge of DNA or enzymes and all this, but they have achieved it, and they are feeding the entire world for millennia. So, and then this table, we are showing not only the creation of the species, but in each species, people have exploded the genetic diversity. So rice here is a champion in this history of domestication. In India, it used to have 110,000 varieties of rice until 1970. And so many of these, of course, the potato and quinoa and wheat, every one of them have thousands and thousands of varieties. That is, genetic diversity of each crop, although the species remain the same. Next one, please. But when in the subsequent years, now with the advent of the Green Revolution in 1960s, late 60s, all out of these 110,000 varieties of rice, which existed in India alone, now we are left with not more than 6,000 varieties only. Now, this massive genocide of curtailment of this abrogation of these varieties, 110,000 varieties to just 6,000 varieties, is not spoken much about. The agriculture universities, agriculture ministry, food and agriculture department of any government do not mention this massive genocide. So we have actually lost. Lost means irrecoverably lost, irrevocably lost, just like dinosaurs. We have lost them. Only 6,000 varieties are left. And I'm fortunate to have collected so far in my farm 1,480 varieties, which we're cultivating every year. And because of that existence of this small number, 1,400, we can surmise how much wealth we have already lost in the process of the Green Revolution within just 30 years of its advent. Next one, please. Now, what did we achieve with this? After this, this is the FAO's and International Rice Commission's chairman's publication. And they see after 65 years of rice breeding research in the world, we have not yet developed any single stable variety which can be grown stably in rain-fed upland, which is dryland, lowland, which is deep water, and saline farms, like the farms on the coastal lines, where seawater incursion is very common in all the coastal areas. We have not yet been able to develop one single high-yielding variety of rice, if not, despite all of this research. No, what's the answer? And we are all talking about climate change. We are talking about food security for the billions and so on. The answer, the best bet, in my mind, and scientific objectively, is the indigenous varieties. Indigenous crop varieties which were developed and invented by unknown, unnamed farmer scientists millennia ago or centuries ago. Next one, please. Just to give you an idea of this, not just rice. I mean, it applies to all kinds of crops. Just an example of this, the Bengal varieties of aubergines or eggplants. We have 152 varieties of eggplants, for example. Most of it is now decimated. Next one, please. And then we have different kinds of millets from Andhra Pradesh and Telangana varieties. This is just a snippet of this, the enormous number of varieties. We had more than 300 varieties of pearl millets, for example, and 200 varieties of finger millets and so on. So it's just a visual representation of the diversity that our ancient farmers had achieved, not by the lab coat wearing scientists of corporations. Next one, please. Coconut varieties, Tamil Nadu and Kerala, each variety has a unique property. So one variety is very good, favored for coir rope making. Another variety, which is on the left side, the third row, is favored, second row, left side, is favored for making coir mattresses, very soft and cushiony mattresses. The last one is good for the meat, the thickest meat of the coconut, and so on and so forth. Next one, please. So we have in rice, this is in my own collection, all these all the properties for which genetic engineering is now being promoted to include all of these, the invent all of these, like salt tolerant varieties, drought tolerant varieties, flood tolerant varieties, and submergence tolerance varieties. Submergence is not just flood tolerance, is flood tolerant is that when you have a seasonal flood, when the water level rises, the rice plant also lengthens, grows higher and higher above the water surface, up to 11 feet high. So the rice, the water level goes to about 3 meter, 4 meter, and the length of this, from the stature of the rice plant, goes up to 4 meter and above. That's the drought tolerant, flood tolerant. And then submergence is just the opposite. It does not grow, that is, stem elongation doesn't take place. So it stays submerged underwater. But when the flash flood, the water level subsides, it again, respires and survives and gives the fruits. And it's as if, it holds its breath for 3 weeks, which is a unique property, which is never found in any of the modern varieties of rice. It can survive 3 weeks underwater without breathing. So these are the amazing varieties. Just from my own collection, there must have been hundreds of other varieties, similarly. But these are the most immediate one. Environmental properties, environmental resistance of the climatic conditions, which we are now all facing about the climate change scenario, that we are going to face more frequent drought, more frequent floods, cyclones, seawater incursion, more longer periods of drought, and so on and so forth. These are the answers. These are our arsenals to fight that. Next one, please. And we have, just to show you a few examples of this dry land rice. It is completely unirrigated land, totally parched land, but we are growing these, these dry land varieties. Next one, please. And is the opposite, a variety which grows to 10 feet deep water. This man in this, the farmer has swum across. He kept the last stock of that, this last plant, to show me very proudly that this is surviving after harvest. So this is 10 feet deep water. Next one, please. So we have also, not only this, also the climate change also threatens with the rising air temperature. And the average world temperature has already risen by 1.5 degrees already recorded. And it's going to be higher and higher in the tropical countries, especially in India. We are already suffering more than 5 degrees. Last year, it was 5 degrees above the average. Next one, please. We have different varieties of rice, which we have published this year itself. This is a 25 publication. We have documented a few hundred varieties which can withstand this high temperature and delays its flowering and gives the entire production unaffected. Next one, please. So of these 1,480 varieties that I'm growing every year, each of them has a unique property. This is, I cannot show you all of the properties. It's only the visual, the colors and size and shape. But I cannot show you the aroma of the rice variety. I cannot show you, I cannot make you understand the taste of it, the texture of it, the cooking time, the cooking properties, the vitamin content, mineral content. All of these in each variety have, which are unique in any of these ones. To the last one, on the left, the last variety, Tulsi Bhog, is an aromatic variety and is a dry land variety, which does not require any irrigation water and after transplanting. The extreme one but last on the right side is the variety which is opposite, which grows in 10 feet deep water. The fifth variety from the right, with the black rice, which is very high antioxidant containing rice. And when you cook the rice, the rice itself is black. The extreme right is purple. And so you get this, all these different range of colors, white, yellow, ivory, red, brown, black, purple, and each of them containing different kinds of nutritional properties, nutraceutical properties, which we have recently discovered too. Next one, please. This is one unique variety that I'm always feeling proud to share with you. This is one single variety of rice in each spikelet, you get 3 grains, 3 kernels in each grains. So if you remove this hull, you get 3 instead of 1, which is normal. And this was, okay, again, invented by one unknown pharma scientist who didn't know anything about DNA, but he achieved it about a century ago. I happen to be the last repository of this variety in the world. And even IRRI doesn't have this variety in their stock. So, and this is a unique variety, but this is also a story of sorrow, because the farmer who gave me this variety, which I'm still growing, had died, and then his son had abandoned it, because his son is modern farmer. He is educated. He knows enough about nitrogen and potassium and phosphorus. So he considers this is backward, unscientific, and he has adopted IR36 more modern varieties as scientific agriculture. So in this process, we have lost, our farmers have, new generations of farmers have lost thousands and thousands of unique varieties, amazing varieties of rice. Next one, please. This is another variety I'm very proud to show. This is the serendipitous discovery that I made 5-6 years ago. This is the only variety in the world, rice variety, which contains silver in its grain, about 16 ppm of silver. And also, amazingly, this variety itself is used by indigenous traditional people, tribal people, who actually consider this is the best medicine for gastroenteric infection, any type of gastroenteric infection. And so giardiasis, amoebiasis, entamoeba, anything, any microbes, and you eat a plateful of this rice, cooked rice, and it's cured. Now we know the answer. Why? Because it contains silver nanoparticles, which kills off all the gut the pathogens, all the pathogens. We have also experimentally proven in our laboratory that it does kill the colonies of all gut microbes. That's the reason that it was a medicinal variety. But now we discovered it is the only variety with silver, although we didn't have any aim to discover silver or gold in our rice, but this is just a happenstance. It's a serendipitous discovery. We were actually screening all these thousands of varieties to get for the metals, nutraceutical metals like iron and zinc content, which I can show you in the next slide. So we have we detected many of these, all kinds of experiments that we were doing, nutraceutical properties and biochemical traits. Next slide, please. So this is another one. It's a very recent publication by the Indian Council for Agricultural Research, where they admit that with the Green Revolution, the nutritional content of the rice varieties have declined about 25 times less than it used to be. And that's published recently, just last year. Next one, please. This is their own graph that it shows the decline of nutraceutical properties, nutritional properties of rice from the beginning, pre-Green Revolution era to the Green Revolution era. And every year, the content of nutrient is actually declining, not to recover. This is the admission of the rice scientists themselves, the Indian Council of Agricultural Research, published in Nature. Next one, please. So we have one example. We have examined more than 560 varieties of rice. Just a snippet. This last line, this IR681442223, is a big name. It was developed by IRRI, and they claimed that this was the last best iron fortified rice, which is genetically modified. So genetically modified iron fortified rice contains 8.9 milligram per kg. So if you eat 1 kg of rice, you get roughly 9 milligram of iron. Now compare this with any of these varieties that we have mentioned here that contain 60 ppm, 80 ppm, 30 ppm, and the largest content is 151 ppm, which means 130 milligram per kg. Now, the common sense would be to promote those varieties for iron subsidy, for the iron deficit population, like anemic population. but common sense is very uncommon among policymakers. So those varieties are not cultivated, those varieties are not promoted, but the government is promoting this last one, genetically modified iron fortified rice. That's the irony. So our task is to promote those varieties, to discover these properties, and to promote this cultivation for the farmer's sake as well as the consumer's sake, who are actually sick from this one. So micronutrients deficits too. Next one, please. So, and we have zinc and copper similarly. So then we have also analyzed lots of vitamins for the first time in the world, that we have screened for B vitamins. In most of the publications, standard publication that says accepting B1, vitamin B1, rice is actually devoid of most of the vitamins, which we have contradicted. And next one, please. We have shown that hundreds of varieties have many of those vitamins, which are not recorded yet in the traditional, in the conventional high-yielding varieties. In another one is this is a very recent publication that we published last year. 4 years ago. This is a unique one that we have recorded 46 varieties of rice, which contains 2 essential fatty acids, which are found only in mother's milk, human mother's milk. And these are essential for the infant's brain development, cognitive development. So, and because of that, infant's cognitive development, we need those 2 essential fatty acids, which are found only in mother's milk. It's also found in cow's milk, but because cow's milk is also boiled before feeding to the child, that fatty acid is degraded. But now we discovered in these 46 varieties of rice, the same 2 essential fatty acids are also contained, which is counterintuitive, because we never expected that those 2 essential fatty acids from animal milk could be present in this rice. So we are recommending that for the infants with no mother, or mothers who have difficulty in milk production, could have this kind of supplement from these rice varieties for the infant to feed, which is of course absent in any of the formula foods. Next one, please. Second arsenal. So that's the first arsenal was the what I call the hardware, the diversity of crops and their varieties. Then this cropping pattern. Next one, please. The pattern of cropping, which is exactly opposite to the monoculture, the green revolution of the modern agricultural pattern, monoculture. Instead of that, we have to increase. We are increasing, alpha diversity and beta diversity of crops. So in each row, there will be mixture of different crops, and the sum total of the crop will have a huge number of varieties. Traditionally, all the indigenous, tribal agricultural patterns, indigenous ones from Africa to Ladakh, people used to grow multiple crops simultaneously or by rotations, crop rotation and other things. Next one, please. And there has been umpteen number of publications of the methods of this, the row cropping, relay cropping, random mixing cropping, rotational cropping, and so on and so forth. And the benefits from this have been recently being published by different agroecologists. And one of these is going to be in the next slide. Was published it was an example of this traditional cropping system where 220 plant species were grown simultaneously in the same farm, in the same plot of land every year. 220, that includes not only food, but also medicinals, fodder, structural properties like bamboos, and so on. Next one. The benefit of this, the agronomic benefit, it was published by another group of scientists in Nature, and it was in 23. And it shows that this diversification has increased food production by 2.3 times than monoculture of each. And next one, please. And it's not only that, also it reduces greenhouse gas emission, it enriches the soil fertility, and so on and so forth, which is now being documented, and in scientific parlance, that's why it is accepted to science. But people have been doing this for millennia without this kind of formal scientific acknowledgement and endorsement, and which we are developing this one repeatedly. In my own study, in the next slide, in my 2 successive publications in Cambridge journals, next one, please, we have again proved the same thing over and over. And the result is that we have experimented with 7 crops simultaneously grown on the same land, compared with monoculture of each of these 7. And in 3 different types of planting design against monoculture. One is the semi-random, another is random mixing of all the crops in the same, all the 7 ones. Next one, please. 5.7 times higher production than any of the monoculture. This is an amazing property. It's only with 7 crops, and people are actually growing more than 20 crops a year. That's the traditional one. Next one, please. So third is the architectural complexity. Next one, I'll just slip in a few seconds. Very quickly, please. Yeah, that's the multi-tier, multi-species farm architecture. Next one, that enhances the complexity. Next one, please quickly flip very quickly. Yeah, just a few seconds. And now the agroecological complexity. Yeah. So it's not just the structural complexity, but also the agroecology, all components of biodiversity, not only crops, but also non-crop species of plants, and also the insects, and not just the domesticated animals, but all the wild animals from earthworms to mammals. Next one. So so weed, I mean, all these non-crop plants are, this is the modern agriculture always teaches the farmers that it's a weed. Now, Ralph Waldo Emerson, the American sage, actually made this very easy definition. Weed is a plant whose virtue is not yet unknown. So not yet known. So that's why I don't consider a weed, any plant as a weed. We call it companion crops, companion plants. So next one, please. These are just examples of different kinds of grasses, all these kind of insects which are all beneficial, including snakes. And this is the last one. The ecological meaning of this complexity is that any system, there's been umpteen number of models, ecological models, including my own, that shows that any system with more species, more links, and more heights of food web structure, systems are more resilient, more persistent, and more resistant to any kind of perturbation. I mean, accepting that it's a huge, massive earthquake or a Vesuvius type of ignition, but otherwise, to a reasonable range of disturbance, including climate change that we are facing. This is the only criterion of agroecology. That's why agroecology is so much needed. So the next one, please. So the hardware is the diversity of crops, and the software is the knowledge, the cropping pattern, cropping system, the how to integrate all this biodiversity together in the farm is the software. And that is agroecology. I think this is an example for over the past 26 years. Vasudha is our farm, which has never used any of these insecticides, fungicides. No, it's not even modern any kind of varieties outside. But we have never encountered any of these things. It doesn't mean that we didn't have any pest, we didn't have any diseases, but the infestation or the infection was so minuscule. It was 1 in 2,000 plants, one infection in 2,000 plants, which is nothing. So that's why we are surviving.